I've just been sitting here, just listening to the cicadas cry in the background. This is so freaking emotional, man. Hey, we're in like the last third of it, so I'm sure it's going to get really intense from here on out. So let's get back into it. Miyano and the others, having a set up through with Tamagotchi Festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. Yeah, Keiichi is on a mission. My man went like Super Saiyan and like evil mode yesterday. Well, not yesterday, but the last chapter. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mian had a lot of nerve. He's kind of, man, he's kind of, well, not kind of, he's totally snapped at this point. First thing I did when I got back home was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat. It was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force had the highest arrest rate in the world. I would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. At court, they consider whether the charges are false or not, but figuring out the real criminal is entirely out of scope. This shower is super loud, but it's also super relaxing because it sounds like a rainstorm. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult-to-solve incidents involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff. They all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There is something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes. Perfect crimes were skills of the gods. Oh my god, dude. He's getting, like, so deep with this. Dang. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Orishiro-sama. I understood. They must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods, those are perfect crimes. I'd be setting up my own crime before Orishiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I need to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame. But as systematic as ice. Dang, dude, he's going hard with this. I love it. Starting now, I need to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes, kidnappings involving disturbing original methods that made it into the newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Dang, that's a lot of books. Every time she watched mystery shows, she could always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her. He's gonna straight up ask his mom. That's awesome.
これまでの推理小説の中で、母さんが一番よくできたと思った完全犯罪？
It's got the spooky music going. Let's go.
母さんって結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ。そういうの詳しいかなって思って。
それを読むから楽しいのよ。初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ。
Also true. Wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butt her up first and draw out an answer.
そうね。よくできた推理小説。結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があって、どれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど、強いてあげれば。
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ。母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ。
本当に完全なトリックだったら名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない。
And then from a writing standpoint, that doesn't really make any entertainment. That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ。
Exactly.
解けない謎だったらそれは推理小説の題材になり得ないわね。
そっか。そりゃそうだよな。主人公に解けなかったらお話として成立しないもんな。
Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you can get to a goal, so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. Needed to be the be-all, end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということはケイチ、真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら？
Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Interesting. Apparently she was really into it. Don't even become stories. What does that
ケイ
mean?
チ、物語の最低構成要素は？
It means like if the mystery was never solved or the case was never done or they like figured anything out, then there wouldn't be any reason to write a mystery for it because they wouldn't know how it was done.
起承転結。
正解。特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分よ。スタートの木がなかったら、そもそも物語は始まらない。
そりゃそうだよ。何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
そう。何も起こらないから事件にもならない。探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。推
Exactly.
理がないなら解決もない。
Dude, I like Keiichi's mom.
つまり、
She
これが究極の完全犯罪。
ちょっと待って。もう一度説明してくれるかな。
My mom just told me something absurd. And she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just
そ
now.
んな難しい話じゃないわよ。そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
Hide the crime.
そもそも発覚しない事件。
つまり、例えばよ。誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥で、おじいさんが一人暮らしをしているとする。
うん。
そのおじいさんがある日、斧で殺されました。ちなみに犯人は、じゃあ、おじいさんの息子ね。
This is oddly specific, and I'm kind of gonna just assume that Keiichi's mom in the past was an axe murderer.
おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
If he didn't first say, I need to ask you a question, then I don't want to hear any more about this story. That's so dumb, I love it. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect
で
crime.
もケイチ、そこはとてもとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い深い森の中。さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。おじいさんは元気だった。
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was doing fine. Fine with an axe. I can't think of anything funny to say.
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
ケイチ、この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。もしもこの後、誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら、永久に木は訪れない。
The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり、物語は始まらない。事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。そもそも誰も不審に思わないから謎も起こらない。おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんで、ジエンド。どう？こんな感じで。
Mhm.
すごいじゃないか。それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
Keiichi's mom just gave him the solution he needed to do an IRL murder.
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。推理小説は所詮娯楽書。完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
Thankfully not. I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after her aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of Oyashiro-sama. When the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear once again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. Nobody would really care. People hated him after all, exactly. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. Get some of that fresh air. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. So if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of Watanagashi. So as long as I was standing in for Oishiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko. Just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more. But please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that. But please, just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. Music. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I'd definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable. But this was something I'd chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You could probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach like a staff would be far more advantageous. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you killed him, the end result was the same. So what's a staff-like deadly weapon, terrifyingly powerful and also eminently portable? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. Yup. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. Can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school. At a location in which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desks, in their surprise, fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive?
Baka-bakashi.
I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. What I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day.
あった。北条。間違いない。
If one person had one locker, then why would only Satoko have 2? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been there. Is it a metal baseball bat? Scrape. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes. Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform. And a bat. The one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes. This was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role. It was Satoshi's. I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all of my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. Man, Keiichi's like so intense with this. There's no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. I can agree with that, honestly. Now, I just need to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and think it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. Like, I would hope not. I left at the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it, in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Jeez, really? Machines that haven't been moved in years, you can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. Smart. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh the entire day? A moment with dull thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay. Next. How to dispose of the corpse. I think it's just going through like a whole checklist. It's great. Morbid, but great. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onagafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now that appeared in the legends of Onagafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onagafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onagafuchi Village. In other words, the swamp was the origin of Onagafuchi Village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the lands of the demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. I was trying to copy Oishiro-sama's curse, and I felt that theory demanded I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse this year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in the swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse, too. It was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up or them finding it. Imagine that, like, you commit a moida, and you go to dispose of it in a swamp, and then you stupidly fall in on your own. Like, that is instant karma. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there, too? I could discard the weapon there, and then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it'd be convenient to get rid of the bike, too. I knew that Sakuto's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse, after a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still out on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, come to pieces and hide him, but the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. I guess, yeah. Gotta look at your time. With that out of the question, I conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I wouldn't want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. Choice of where to plan the crime, that I need to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satsuko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. A bit of a back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Higurashi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first. And nobody would use this back way unless they had something to do at Satsuko's house or one of the two other places. This path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. I would wait for him, in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went to the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Satsuko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satsuko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him to, wouldn't he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satsuko go to the festival? Satsuko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okunomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be police or the hospital, told him to come and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satsuko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Unfortunately, conclusion. If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. Luring out by phone was my first step. I needed to be sure Satsuko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It'd be convenient if I could make Mion take Satsuko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satsuko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use the fact and get her there. Satsuko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days. When she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that'd be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I wanted to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voice of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place.
穴を掘るか。
I love that this chapter so far has just been like 20-something minutes of Keiichi plotting the perfect crime. It's been great. A lot of reading, but it's been great. Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I had envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag. That wouldn't be Bro, did you... He literally just took a gardening spade to dig a hole for a body. You know what, man? That's dedication. I'll give him that. Still, as I looked in various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. But if I was slipshod in those efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. Smart. I need to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I need to get her to promise Satsuko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him, and decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on time, but I would play that by ear. Just so nonchalant about it. I didn't have a way to decide that. Is that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Will this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack. So it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way, a truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satsuko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Did I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have... All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned. But was the actual murder the most important part? What unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Maibara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive... your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder. Kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. It's an interesting way to describe it. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiichi Maibara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. The feeling I had never went away that night. It was the first time I'd be calling Mion's house. Oh, well, I guess, yeah. I was like, I'm pretty sure they talked on the phone. That was with Shion a lot in the last one. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me, and then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. Ring, 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 banana phone. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver.
はい、園崎です。
あ、夜分遅くにすみません。ミオンか。
どちら様です？
俺だよ、ケイチだ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。何こんな時間に。
What's up? She seemed to be in a really good mood and she drew her syllables out. She's probably drinking. Right, it's the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks.
悪いな、こんな時間に。今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
サトコのことなんだけど。
Her to draw in a small breath on the other end.
サトコ、大変なことになっちゃったね。大丈夫かな？
The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her
大
voice.
丈夫なわけないだろう。お前も見ただろ、あれ。あんな、擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて、俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
That's true.
でも、結局何も思いつかなかったし、サトコを救えたわけじゃないだろう。
Like, still tried everything you could. There's really not much in your power that you could do, especially if she's lied to child services in the past and won't tell them anything now.
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
え？遊ばせるって？
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかる。だからさ、明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それは構わないけど、どうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっと聡子は喜ぶ。
At least in this scenario, his heart's in the right place.
どうして？
I think Mion knows. She's like, bro, why?
どうしてって何がだよ。
I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking
ど
me.
うして？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp.
俺実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ、祭りには
Mm-hmm.
行けない。
That's not
だから
suspect at
聡
all.
子、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
大した用事じゃないんだ。多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。なあ、ミオン、明日の夜だけ聡子を頼めないか。
I'm pretty sure Mion understands what she's trying to do. What Keiichi's trying to do, I mean. Mion took a long time to give her reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions or something.
いや、
Aw. Is that a sob? Mion. Are you crying?
私、嫌だって。
Aw.
私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。
I mean,
明日の夜
kind
だけ
of.
でいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Mion, what is she talking
綿
about?
流しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。嘘つき。
What? First off, what is she talking about? Second off, is this even Mion? Is this Shion
で
right
も
now?
おあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
This is definitely Shion. I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a
あ
daze.
れからずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけに
This is definitely
また電
Shion
話をしてきたんですね。
thinking about Satoshi and kind of just being broken in the brain and probably a little drunk.
本当にずるい人ねえ、あなたサトシ君なんでしょう。
ミオン、さっきから何の話だ。
When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released.
あ
Yeah, she was letting Shion out a little bit too much.
なんでもないの。ちょっとケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
Aw.
それ、ひょっとしてサトシか。
Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
Well, Shion is low-key terrifying, so yes. I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satsuko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did.
サトシ、祭りに行かなかったんだな。
うん。用事があるから自分は行けないって言って。代わりに私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
その時、サトシも言ったんだな。サトコを頼むって。
うん。言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんで。
Oh yes, that definitely drugged up some
ちょっと思い出して取り乱し
loopy
ちゃった。
memories. I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the
そう
festival.
だったな。サトシはその数日後に消えた。
Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satsuko.
そう。天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
And then an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? Oh, I don't know. What happened to the aunt? If in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, that's... Could it... I think you're on the right track here, bro. Was Satoshi.
え、何が？
Last year, Satsuko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most, and on that night, in the name of Orishiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it?
去年、サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。あれ、サトシってことは考えられないか？
No, but that would mean... Then Satoshi, he was a coward who abandoned Satsuko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Satsuko? It was unthinkable.
私も実はそれを疑ったことがある。サトシには悪いけど。
But accurate. A few days later, he disappeared. On Satsuko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have to run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt beaten to death was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He had permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi wished for a return to peaceful days with Satsuko and thought he achieved it for a time. He had been steadily driven into a corner. And then he wanted to at least hold out until Satsuko's birthday, but finally, they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satsuko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He'd buy the stuffed animal as her gift, and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was a choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satsuko the sister of a murderer. I love that Keiichi's just getting, like, respect for Satoshi now. If that was the case, there must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satsuko happy, he had to use it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo if the rumors were true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか？
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
Good old Oishi. Had he been slowly driving into a corner by that, or had he been slowly driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit with his air-conditioned car?
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したっていうし。
That was right. The deviant had confessed, and the incident was solved.
そいつは本当にただの異常者で、Hinamizawaとは何の縁もない男だったって。もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到
It is
底
a bit
思えないし。
weird. You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. That guy took the blame. That was the perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それに、サトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。
Yeah, going to, like, move to Tokyo would have cost a lot more
サ
money
ト
than
シ
he
が
had.
預金を下ろした日、これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。きっとサトシが買ったに違いない。
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないでぬいぐるみを買うために使ったならサトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。ぬいぐるみを買ってそれを届けもせずに蒸発するなんて考えられない。
うん。だからわからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったならサトシは無一文。お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど世の中は甘くないよ。
Very true. You can't live a life in general without money. I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic.
ごめん。どこで話が脱線しちゃったん
A
だ
little
か。
bit.
サトコの件ね。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
Oh, look at that. She's 10 steps ahead of you.
本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、サトコを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。 それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。おじのやつよそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。
Dude was probably like drunk or high or
安心し
something.
た？サトシ。
Aw.
バカ、俺はサトシじゃないって。
I'll let Shion be happy. I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for the slight difference.
すまないな。俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ。変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。誰にもなく取り乱しちゃって本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for a
じ
little
ゃあ
bit.
俺はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまたサトシと同じように言えない？
バカ。
Hmm,
だから
I
俺は
think she knows.
サトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
そんなのは分かってるよ。
I deflected her with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after
じゃあ
that.
今度こそおやすみな。
She
どうしてケイ
knows.
ちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど、なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
I want to think she'd be like, just tell him to like, yeah, make it hurt or something like that. In case she's like, I'm done. I'm hanging up, bro. Click. Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself your Nini. But now I didn't know what to think. Oishiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, me trying to carry out Oishiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi, the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I'd been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. That is actually kind of creepy. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. That was the first impression a third party like Mion got. That was probably true. Then Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the Moida. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of this world, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi had been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then, too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now, the kind worthy of Satoko's love? Aw. I never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I'd never felt that way before. Alright, 1 tippy. Note on the housewife Moida case. July 1982. Okinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasuki. Prefecture Police Headquarters for the Eradication of Drug-Related Crime. Shishibone Branch Head, redacted. Regarding incident designated as Undercover Investigation. This message informed me that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinuma Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village housewife slaughter incident. During investigation of subject blank blank, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to a crime in question, and became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you, duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect redacted was the perpetrator of the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinuma Police Station. But the responsible party at Okinuma Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from Prefectural Police Station Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, they did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question, and as a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there's a postscript saying that suspect blank blank died while in confinement yesterday on redacted. Oh, interesting. Alright, well that was chapter 9. That was literally just like 80% Keiichi plotting a Moida, which is great. This is a nice little brief interlude from the emotional part that we just had last time to, I'm sure, getting all crazy next time. So I'll leave it here, a little bit shorter part, but next time we'll get into chapter 10, and then we got 11 and 12 and the after party. So gonna be a fun couple of parts. Yay! So keep sticking with me through it. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you. Until next time, keep being kind to each other. Bye.